I killed Julius Caesar. Not because I hated him. That would have made everything easier. I killed him because I believed Rome could not remain free while one man stood above the Republic. But Caesar died, and Rome was not saved. His death gave us another war. Romans turned their swords on Romans, and the Republic I had killed him to protect began dying with him. Worse still, Caesar was not merely my enemy. He had forgiven me. He trusted me. And I still joined the men who surrounded him with knives. So before you judge the knife in my hand, understand the reason I needed to put it there. Perhaps I killed Caesar to save Rome. Or perhaps that is simply what I needed to believe. Before Caesar, there was already a Brutus. Rome remembered that name. Long before I was born, Romans had attached something to it. A Brutus was supposed to remember what Rome had done to kings. A Brutus was supposed to resist any man who tried to stand above other Romans. Whether every story told about my blood was true mattered less than this. Romans believed the name meant something. That is what a famous name does to you. Before you decide who you are, other people have already decided who you should be. For me, duty began to feel less like a choice and more like a debt. A debt attached to the name Brutus. So I tried to become worthy of it. I studied philosophy. I admired men who placed public duty above comfort. I wanted to believe reason could master ambition, that law could master power, that Rome was greater than any single Roman. And I believed that when the moment came, principle would tell me what to do. Then the moment came, and principle became much less simple, because the man I would eventually call a threat to Rome was also the man who had every reason to destroy me, and chose not to. I had fought against Caesar. When he and Pompey tore Rome apart, I chose Pompey. Caesar defeated us. He could have treated me as an enemy. Instead, he forgave me. More than that, he trusted me. He gave me responsibility, office, a future. Think about that before deciding this was revenge. Caesar did not ruin my life. He restored it. You may think mercy should have made me loyal. Perhaps it should have. Instead, every favor reminded me of something I could not ignore. Who had the power to grant it? My safety existed because Caesar allowed it. My position existed because Caesar approved it. My future depended upon the goodwill of one man. Perhaps you hear generosity in that. I did too. But I also heard something else. Power. The problem was not that Caesar had been cruel to me. The problem was that my freedom had become something Caesar could give back. And if one Roman could return another Roman's freedom, what did that say about the republic that supposedly made us equal before its laws? Mercy should have made the next decision easier. Instead, it made it harder. Because now I had to decide whether a good act by one man could make his power over everyone else acceptable. The Republic did not disappear in a single day. That would have been easier to recognize. The Senate still met. Magistrates still held office. Men still used the old words: republic, liberty, law. But more and more authority gathered around Caesar. Honors followed him. Titles followed him. Eventually, he became dictator for life, and each new honor made the next one easier to accept. That was what frightened me. Not one dramatic moment. Habit. Rome learning little by little to accept one man standing above other Romans. Then came the word Rome had feared for centuries. King. Was Caesar planning to make himself one? I cannot prove that. You should know that. At the Lupercalia, Antony offered him a diadem. Caesar refused it. That happened. So if you want Caesar to be innocent of every royal ambition, you have evidence to hold on to. But I could not stop there, because tyranny does not always announce itself with a crown. Sometimes the institutions remain standing while their meaning disappears. The Senate may still meet, magistrates may still hold office, men may still call themselves free. But if one man's favor determines who rises, who falls, who is forgiven, and which decisions survive, then what exactly remains free? You want Caesar to be either a tyrant or a victim. I understand. It makes judging me easier. But he could be dangerous, and still be the man who had shown me mercy. Both things could be true. And while I struggled with that contradiction, Rome began asking why a man named Brutus was still struggling at all. Messages appeared reminding me what my name was supposed to mean. The old Brutus had driven out kings. What would this Brutus do? Perhaps those messages were sincere. Perhaps some came from men who knew exactly where my pride was weakest. Cassius certainly understood. The conspiracy already had anger. It had grievances. It had men willing to kill. But anger was not enough. The conspirators needed Rome to believe the murder meant something. For that, they needed me. Cassius understood something about my reputation before I did. If Caesar were killed only by men who hated him, Rome might see revenge. If he were killed by men hungry for power, Rome might see ambition. But if Brutus stood among them, perhaps Rome would see principle. They told me my presence would prove the cause was honorable, and I believed them. That belief troubles me more now than it did then. I thought my character could change the nature of the act, that because I sought no crown, murder committed beside me would somehow become different from ordinary murder. Perhaps it did. Or perhaps the conspiracy simply needed an honorable man so that blood could look honorable. And joining them was not the last moral decision I had to make. Some wanted Antony dead as well. I refused. Caesar, I argued, was the danger. Kill Antony too, and we would no longer look like men removing a tyrant. We would look like butchers. I wanted one death, one necessary wound. Then the Republic could heal. Do you see the arrogance in that? I thought I could decide who must die, and then decide what his death would mean. But murder does not obey the intentions of the murderer. Once Caesar was dead, Rome would decide what our act meant, and the man I insisted we spare would have a voice in that decision. By the morning of the 15th of March, every conversation felt dangerous. Every delay felt fatal. There were moments when I thought Caesar knew, moments when Cassius thought everything had already been exposed. Still, Caesar came. He entered among men he knew, men he had fought beside, argued with, forgiven, trusted. We approached him under the appearance of ordinary business, a petition, a request, a refusal. Then Casca moved. The first blow came, then another, and another. I drew my weapon. Historians will count the wounds, name the conspirators, describe where Caesar fell. I remember something simpler. He saw me, the man who had spared my life, saw me standing among the men taking his. You know the famous words later generations placed into that moment. I will not pretend I heard them. I do not need them. His face was enough. Then Caesar was dead. For months we had imagined that moment. We had imagined what Rome would feel when it was finally free of him. Now Caesar was gone. The act itself had succeeded, which meant there was nowhere left for our theory to hide. Rome had to answer. I tried to speak. People fled. That should have warned me. We had spent months deciding how Caesar should die. We had spent almost no time deciding what Rome should become the next morning. The next morning came anyway. Caesar's body remained. So did his supporters. So did his soldiers. So did his popularity. So did Antony, the man I had insisted we spare. Then Caesar's will became known. Money for citizens, gardens for public use. The man we had killed as a threat to liberty could now be remembered as Rome's murdered benefactor. Then came the funeral. We had given Rome one explanation for Caesar's death, Other men gave it another. We said tyrant, they said murdered leader. We said liberty, they said betrayal. And grief turned into anger, not against Caesar, against us. Our argument was complicated. Theirs was simple. Caesar had been murdered. We were the men who murdered him. That was enough. We had imagined ourselves liberators. Many Romans saw assassins. You may think that means the people simply failed to understand us. I told myself that too. But there is a more uncomfortable possibility. Perhaps we had understood the people less than we imagined. We believed that killing Caesar would restore republican government. Instead, Caesar's death created a struggle over who would inherit the power he left behind. Antony survived because I had insisted upon it. Octavian emerged as Caesar's heir. Factions hardened, armies gathered, and every problem produced by Caesar's death made extraordinary power seem necessary again. That is the trap we had not foreseen. Caesar's death removed Caesar. It did not remove the world that had produced him. We believed one man was the disease. Perhaps he was only its most visible symptom. A dead tyrant does not automatically produce a free people. I learned that too late. Soon I could no longer safely remain in the city I claimed to have liberated. So the man who had killed Caesar because political power had become too dependent on armies did what necessity now seemed to demand. I raised one. Rome's future would again be decided by soldiers. And this time, some of them answered to me. I became a man with an army. You may call that hypocrisy. I understand why. But do not make the answer too easy. It would be convenient if I had never believed a word I said about liberty, if the Republic had merely been an excuse, if Caesar's death had been ambition wearing philosophy as a mask. Then you could condemn me and be finished. But I did believe it. That is what makes the rest harder. Sincerity does not make a man correct. A man can believe deeply and still destroy what he meant to save. I had feared politics decided by force. Now my argument for liberty depended upon force. I had feared men claiming extraordinary power because Rome was in danger. Now men on every side made that claim, including mine. And once politics becomes armies facing armies, philosophy no longer decides which side survives. Soldiers do. So everything I had argued about Caesar, liberty, necessity, the Republic, would finally be tested somewhere no argument could rescue me. Philippi. We faced Antony and Octavian. One body on the Senate floor had become armies facing armies. Romans against Romans. Again. In the first battle, my men succeeded where we fought. For a moment, victory seemed possible. But elsewhere, Cassius thought the battle had been lost. He died before learning that part of our army had actually won. Think about that. A man can die convinced everything has failed, while victory exists only a short distance away. That is civil war. Confusion becomes fate before truth can reach you. Cassius was gone, but his death did not end the war. It made the next battle harder, and when that battle came, this time there was no misunderstanding. We lost, and suddenly, the philosophy becomes very quiet. There is no Senate left to persuade, no crowd to convince, no conspiracy to justify, no careful distinction between tyrannicide and murder. There is only defeat. Caesar had been dead for more than 2 years. I had accomplished the act that would define my name forever. And yet, there I stood, commanding Romans against Romans, with the Republic no more secure than when I first raised the knife. I had wagered my life on the belief that Rome would be freer without Caesar. Caesar was dead. Cassius was dead. Thousands of Romans were dead, and I was about to join them. I succeeded in killing the man. I failed to create the world his death was supposed to restore. And that left me with a question far more difficult than the one I had asked before the Ides of March. So now you know why I killed Julius Caesar. At least, you know what I believed. I feared what his power was becoming. I believed Rome could not remain free if one man became greater than its laws. And Caesar may truly have been dangerous. That matters, because I will not give you the comfort of an easy verdict. His danger does not prove I was right. My failure does not prove every fear I had was false. Both can be true. For years, I thought the hardest question was whether Caesar had become dangerous enough to kill. It wasn't. The harder question came afterward. What happens when a man becomes completely certain that his cause is just? I believed I was saving Rome. Perhaps I believed it with my whole heart. And if that is true, then the darkest thing I can confess is not that I lied to myself. It is that I may have been sincere. Because sincerity did not save Caesar. It did not save the Republic, and it did not save me. A man does not need to hate what he destroys. Sometimes, he only needs to be certain that he is saving it.